The Science of Society with Elder Darryl Waistline Mitchell.
It's important that we capture culturally who we are. You know, our spirit, our specific way of articulating concepts and ideas. It is my opinion that part of our experience being in the wilderness of North America, man, is that we were able to evolve a form of presentation that's culturally specific, right? And it has the ability to touch the heart and soul of humanity. You know, we are the finest minstrel men and women to have emerged in the last, I would say, 1,000 years. You know, in our specific form. Now, I'm not trying to say things in the sense that no one else on earth in any country has contributions. I'm not saying that because the contribution's been wonderful. But what I'm specifically saying is a certain form of music and dance was evolved in America to come out of the chambers of slavery and stuff, man.
Yeah,
you know, and it's been many authors who've written on it. Du Bois wrote on it. He called it the souls of black folks. And right now it's an interesting debate going on about Du Bois. You know, because you got your so-called Du Bois Marxists. Then you have your critics of Du Bois, right? Some people outright just hate Du Bois, and I find that a tad bit narrow because you can disagree with Du Bois, but he was one of those preeminent scholars, right, and historians in American history.
You cannot deny the fact that he did work for us, whether you agree with it or not.
He was brilliant. Like his Black Reconstruction is absolutely brilliant. And it described for the first time a comprehensive different view of the American South, the Civil War's aftermath, and challenged what was then the dominant narrative, which essentially said niggas ain't shit, we needed to be slaves, and that overthrowing slavery was horrible, and the period after that was just ugly, until white people, heroes, the Ku Klux Klan, became redeemers. That was what they called themselves, redeemers, Southern redeemers who would restore the glory of the Old South. But let me go back and tie this thread together. Because the Supreme Court has played this backward role, and in the sense of black folk, our history and stuff, one of the most hideous, man, was like the Dred Scott decision that said the black man ain't got no rights that a white man is bound to respect. I was like, damn. And that set the basis for a lot of reaction and backwardness. The connection is, you know, like Du Bois, Black Reconstruction, what he wrote about, how it changed history, how even if you disagree with Du Bois, you have to give it up, man, that he represented a certain current in our history. For a black man to go to Harvard, graduate, and be by himself, man, you got to put up with all them white people. And they can't sing or dance or do nothing, man. Like you there by yourself. Now, well, yes, Du Bois represented a voice of an embryonic Negro bourgeoisie, if you will. People forget that Du Bois and his group established more businesses than Marcus Garvey. People forget that. They forget this. Oh, they forget, man. He represented this embryonic Negro bourgeoisie.
But didn't he also do some work in the realm of cooperatives, developing cooperative and collective businesses?
Yes. See, yes. But let me go back and tie this thread together. Now, my point is that Du Bois, just brilliant, you know, beyond comprehension. He represented a certain period of time. No matter how you feel about him, Black Reconstruction, I think is what, 1939? It's a tour de force, man. I was checking out online where they refused to give Cornel West his tenure at Harvard, man. He's the closest thing we had to a Du Bois. I'm just saying pound for pound, man. Yes, his early books had words that was insufferable. Yeah, he put too many big words together into one sentence, man. And I'd be like hurting your ear and shit, man. No, it do, man. Because, okay, Marx write in such a way where, because the Germans write a certain way, where one paragraph from Marx, one sentence from Marx is what we call a paragraph. Because on the end of a thought, he attaches a philosophic meaning to it. And under that, he attached some more shit. And then they use commas and parentheses different from us. I'm saying it in a way that's funny, man, because he's a bona fide intellectual and he has a mastery, man, of history, and especially philosophic history. And he's an abolitionist on the side of the proletariat. Now,
you're referring to Cornel West, correct?
Cornel West, man. Cornel West. And I understand some people call him Corny West, some people call him Cono West and Cone West and West, and you know what I'm saying, man?
Yeah, he's been an enemy to a lot of people, unfortunately.
Okay, see, like, see his, okay. It's a lot of people don't like that particular form of soft shoe. See, it's people who don't like blackface. No, for real. It's people who hate blackface. In fact, no one would even really watch blackface until Spike Lee did Bamboozle. See, that has a role in the change in history and stuff. And if I may confess to comrades and my brothers, I do not want y'all to be mad at me. But hey, man, like I love blackface that's tastefully done. I do. I saw Bamboozle. That was amazing. That was amazing. I'm talking about the form, man. I'm not talking about just naked humiliation, what the Chinese call death by 1,000 cuts. I'm looking beneath that, and I'm telling you, it's an art form here. It's an art form, you know, and I enjoy some of that, man, and the people be mad, man, and be wanting to jump on me. So yeah, I understand the criticism against Cornell. It don't help for a lot of people that he's a Christian in a deep moral, ethical, and philosophic sense, man. He derives from Christ's suffering on the cross.
Yeah.
A source of moral fortitude and strength, man, is unbelievable. It's made him dedicate his life to the fight, man, for the life of the mind. I get that from Cornel West. The life of the mind, I'm telling the truth. I get that from Cornel West, man. And
the life of the mind.
Life of the mind. I got it from Cornel West, man. Because, see, okay, I meet Cornel West in 1978. See, I said 1978 before he was who Cornel West became, man. He wasn't like that. Hey, I'm telling you, man. So he has his evolution and stuff, man. And he's a Du Bois without the elitism of Du Bois. Cornel hate that, man. He hated, man, because, but he keep everything in this historical perspective. You know what I'm talking about, man? I mean, you know, I'm framing Cornel like that. Now, you know what I'm saying, man? Like,
okay, I can dig it.
You know, like, see, okay, as he published his books, right? The bigger the picture of him on the back, the bigger was the bullshit. That's how, you know what I'm saying? That's how we kicked it around, right, back and forth. Right.
Say it again, the bigger the picture, the bigger the bull.
Well, it's true, man, because we got these meters that can measure your bullshit, you know? And we broke out the meters and measured, you know, what was inside against the pitch, and we say, okay, yeah. See, all of us got to put in work. So Cornel, like, you ain't nobody close to him. They can't figure out what he was saying and doing, man. No, I'm saying that their section of the intelligentsia cannot comprehend Cornell, his understanding of American philosophy and how our country breathes, thinks, and behaves. They don't understand that. They don't want to give him action at Harvard because of the position he takes around Israel. I'm not going to try and articulate Cornell's perspective and point of view. But if you ask me if Israel got a right to exist, I say no goddamn state on earth got a right to exist, and that most certainly include Israel, unless you're trying to tell me that God is bigger than another man's God.
That's heavy. That's heavy.
Man, okay, but they want to step on Cornell because of that. And he got to be in favor of the underdog, man. This is about where Christ suffered on the cross. This is the Holy Grail, man, for him. The Holy Land, shit. That's the Holy Grail. Me, I got Holy Grails, but first we got to go back further enough, man, where we didn't hit Sumerian society, Mesopotamia, the early cities of Sumer, and off into the darkest of Africa, man, where we see the first city, temple, towns to come, to take shape, man. The first early formation of an intelligentsia, because you have developed instruments where you can record history in tablets. So first you have to get to a stage of development where you can train a core to do that. Maybe 20, 30 to 50 a year. You have to have the means to sustain them. That's called a division of labor. It come rolling out of Africa, man. So when we talk about, I guess we're talking about what, Marxism and history and Cornell West and Du Bois and how they summarize and present lay history for. And okay, see, man, the people be mad at Du Bois. I know why Cornell hate his elitism. The people don't like how Cornell put big words together. And my beef with my brother, who I love dearly, I can't stand, man, the way he do his hair. Because if you look at his mop real close, man, this thing got gray and shit. Sometimes he best be too fiery. And, I mean, he have like Frederick Douglass and John Brown, and he don't want out of his mind, man. I be like, hey, man, I know a barber who can help you with that. You know, that's how Cornell is, man. And they've been messing with him, man. I don't appreciate it. Because, see, he win every, okay, think Michael Jordan. Now I'm talking about, think Serena. Although ain't nobody bad as Serena. But I'm saying he don't, okay, see, that's why I be mad, man.
I asked this question before of notable Black social theorists. And I'm thinking now that when you talk about social theorists of this day, Cornel West should come up, but he doesn't. And now that I'm thinking, we have Cornel West, we have Thomas Sowell, Tommy Curry. So there are a few social theorists who are Black, but not any in particular who might be Afrocentric or Pan-Africanist social theorist.
You said Thomas Sowell, Sowell?
Yes.
Okay, see, you know what? Like, he just as heavy as Cornell, but he a totally different point of view, man. So I ain't gonna never respect his conclusions, specifically his narrative. See how he does cause and effect. Okay, see, I object like, but he's bona fide intellectual, man. He's got, see, I ain't on their fucking level like that, man. What I do is a little bit different, man. I know how to talk to people, man, and put them up on the game and tell them what, you know, what time it is and stuff, man. They on another level from me and stuff, man. And I'm all right with that because I do what I do. They do what they do and stuff, man. But they good, but Cornell. He's gifted, man. He gifted, man. He really is, man. His books, his narratives, once you overcome the claustrophobic feeling you get from words attached together, man, in such a way that they make you need to want a breath of fresh air. Once you get over that, man, it's quite interesting. You know, I mean, every aspect of philosophy going to pragmatism, James. You know, you go every single. I see he did the ethical dimensions of dimensions of Marxism, right? A book, man, that I don't know about Cornell sometimes, man. He think that sometimes he be feeling that, man, if your perspective is devoid of the emotional stimulus of reliving as a way of life how Jesus suffered on the cross, you're not telling the right story, man. And
yeah, that just kind of makes his assessments of a lot of things seem to be warped because he's not rooted in reality.
Okay. You ain't gonna never find me walking through the street flogging myself on the back, man. I'm not into that. I'm not into that, man. You know, like suffering on the cross, I'm not into that, man, as a dominant narrative or an ideological point of view. I'm not into that like that, man. The narrative is how we begin to articulate our history. We already do it in theater and dance and song and behind the cameras and stuff, man, but it's this art form. You know, Cornell got some of that now, man. You know, he be going off, man. He be off into that John Brown thing. You ever see him arguing, man?
Oh yeah.
Man, like he was on
his arguments, yeah.
one of the reactionary stations. Anyway, okay, I'm just talking, man, but that's how we looked at culture, man. Then see, Stevie Wonder moving to Ghana, man. He said he had enough, man, and he had enough of these rat soup eating motherfuckers.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now,
it's interesting.
Just the way I described that, right? There's a certain vernacular and a certain mode of expression that purely come out of the slave experience. How we do words, sounds, and languages, man. It was Dolomite who used rat soup eating motherfucker. Rat soup eating motherfucker. That was Dolomite. He created these things, these sayings, this form of vernacular. You did pretty good with it, man. You know.
And those things end up spreading from, you know, whether it's a city where it originates, it spreads out through the culture. And you get that language picks up and carries on,
and a lot of them
from one coast to another coast.
Yeah, a lot of them were jailhouse raps, you know, and they generally told a person your story and your life, you know. It described as much of your history as you could squeeze in, depending on how much time you got. And it told heroic stories and stuff, man. Like Shine, please save me. See, it's a story of Dolomite, the signifying monkey, right? All these stories, man, that live. And it's a book by Darryl somebody, man. It's called Shucking and Jiving. It come out around 1978. It preserved these narratives, these short stories, man. That's an authentic part of American culture. It's how we express ourselves and stuff like that, man. Cornell know about that shit. That just wasn't his field. Thomas Sowell, he know about that too. He pretty good. Then
that's interesting.
You have political big heads like C.L.R. James, like Oliver Cox, you know, who did the caste and all race and class, and you know.
What do you got against C.L.R. James?
I'm old school Stalinist. That's what I got against C.L.R. James, man.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And he come to Detroit, man, to be part of what would be called the Black Workers Upsurge. That was us, of course. You know, it's a great history and stuff. But he came to Detroit and he founded a journal called Facing Reality. See, James was with a couple of people that constituted what was called the Forrest Johnson tendency. It was part of the Socialist Workers' Party and the Trotskyite movement in America. C.R. James, a Trinidadian intellectual of immense prowess and shit, man. Brother was heavy and stuff like that. He knew, met, and broke up with Leon Trotsky, the real man in the flesh. C.L.R. James differed with Trotsky on what's called the colonial question, man. You know, and Trotsky was more correct about the situation of blacks, Negroes in America than C.L.R. James. And I know why.
You said Trotsky was?
Yes. Trotsky was more correct than his followers in America.
Can you point to any references
I mean, you
real
know,
quick?
you got to Google like Trotsky Negro question. Trotsky Negro question. Because it's a famous dispute where he was saying, y'all don't even understand that the Negroes in America speak a different language. They speak a form of English, but amongst themselves, they speak a different language. And the reason you don't know that is because they don't talk to you and you don't listen to them. That's why y'all white supremacists. Oh, yeah. Ain't life strange? The real Leon Trotsky, oh, man, he was absolutely correct on his, what we call a Negro question and stuff. His followers weren't. Him and C.L.R. James broke up over that, man. So C.L.R. ended up in Detroit, man. He established a Facing Reality group. He was hanging out with author of Pages from a Negro Worker's Notebook, his wife, that it'll come to me in a minute. But then you also had Raya Donakowski, who founded what's called Humanist Marxism. She was in Detroit. She was a secretary for Leon Trotsky for like 10, 15 years and broke up with him. All of them ended up in Detroit because Detroit was the Petrograd of America. James and Grace Boggs is who names I'm looking for. C.L.R. James, Raya Donakowski, James and Grace Boggs. They constituted this intellectual core. You had Oliver Cox, who was staying like on Wayne, right off of Wayne's campus and stuff. He did Class Cast and something else, man. Right, a very famous book that set the intellectual tone for 50 years and stuff like that, man. So you had giants like that and stuff. He ended up becoming deeply a bourgeois nationalist, man. He died in Great Britain. It doesn't detach from his greatness and stuff, man. But we're talking about a proletarian thing, man. He come to see us, man, and we don't know that. We don't know that because they was like the elders, man. Shit.
Now, what about Marx on the Negro question?
Marx on the Negro question is nothing less than brilliant. It is just a tour de force, man. Like him and Engels, they even analyzed the course of the Civil War as battles was being fought out. Because, see, Marx was writing for the New York Tribune because he's a famous writer. And Engels had enough money, man, where he could come to America and stuff like that because Engels' dad owned a manufacturing plant, a factory. That's how Engels come up, man. So, okay, Engels come up as a kid, man. His dad, they owned a factory. His dad was a capitalist and stuff. They had workers. And for some reason, man, Engels liked the workers and his daddy's plant, and the workers liked him. As he got older, man, and would go into Manchester and stuff, man, to the pubs, the workers knew, man, he set the house up and stuff where everybody can get a drink, man. And he had impeccable English, but what they liked about him was he was cool. He was proletarian.
Mm.
So, I mean, you know, Engels was like that. So Engels also was part of the insurrection, man, in 1848.
Mm.
When Europe was in revolution, Engels studied military affairs. They were not prude bugs, but man, I'm telling you, people got the wrong idea about Engels and Marx. So their letters on the Civil War and America and the Negro question have been compiled in a book. I got it up here somewhere where I can tell you the name of it. Is Marx and Engels on the Civil War in America. I believe that's the name of it. But if you can find an old one from international publishers, a yellow cover that come out in the 60s, get that one, it's better. But they were brilliant on it in terms of knowing the course of the war and why events had to go the way they was going. In fact, Marx wrote to Abraham Lincoln, and Abraham Lincoln wrote back to Marx, essentially saying, I ain't as radical as you, man, but yeah, we're going to stomp a hole in the ass of the Southern oligarchy. The irresistible conflict was at hand.
Mm.
Now, of course, Marx and Engels, man, they used some inappropriate language, like niggas, and talking about, is you a pygmy Negro? You know what I'm talking about? And stuff like that, man.
Mm. Interesting.
Oh, no, they talk like that, man.
Yeah.
Well, Marx did. Marx talked like that to begin with. Engels was a perfect motherfucking gentleman, man. This motherfucker was a gentleman hustler, man.
A gentleman hustler.
His writings are impeccable, man.
Wow.
His contribution to the science of society is immense. It's only because Marx, man, had such a big head, man. But it was Engels that discovered the law of value. It was Marx who knew how to articulate it best. It was Marx who read Engels, man, Conditions of the Working Class in England, and said, who is this? I gotta meet this dude. They met up around 1845 or 6, man. And they created a whole new science of society I don't understand. Then the Industrial Revolution, as it was taking place in front of them, man. They got together and wrote a book. It's called The German Ideology. And it don't mean what Germany mean to us. To us, you say Germany, you think about Hitler, Nazis, and fascism. Back in Marx and Engels' day, 100 years before fascism, right? German ideology meant that way of looking at things where you always had to have a philosophical system and be pissing people off. Rather, society has basic components. This is where they first articulated what would become the materialist conception of history.
So you
For
always
sure,
had to have a philosophical system.
yeah. See, with them long paragraphs, that's what people be pissed at Germans anyway. Because, see, the way they philosophically render things and understand them, man. You be like, put some periods, man, in them sentences and shit, man. Are you serious? And they think it out like that, man, you know. So when we talk about Marxism, Marx and Engels, the Civil War, what kind of individuals they were? They was deeply ladies' men, hustlers of the finest waters, man. I'm just telling you what's happening. If you want me to paint them the wrong way, I can't do that, man. Engels would stand up because Marx, man, was messing with his babysitter and daykeeper and all that stuff, man. And she got pregnant, and Engels said that was his baby.
Wow.
Now, Marx's wife, Eleanor, she was brilliant on her own. Half of the stuff Marx wrote, y'all know Eleanor actually wrote it and straightened out the sentences. Y'all know that. Everybody know that, man. You know that. Shit. Half the time, man, Marx would have had him some wine, man. You know, I'm just saying, man, how the actual history of people, of revolutionaries, man, of developing a new intellectual framework.
You mentioned before that Lenin has made some contributions to the conversation around the Negro problem.
You know, like Lenin, famous piece, man, that was the basis for reshaping the Communist Party of the United States of America. He said that the Negroes in America ought to be classified as a nation. They were not able to successfully complete their bourgeois democratic revolution. That is the revolution that creates a modern state power for you to organize your new life on new economic lines.
That's heavy, and I hope that the listeners get that and investigate it.
Well, you know, like it's got rhythm to it. Like the Negroes were not allowed to become a nation with their own system of self-governing, their own standing army. They were defeated in their attempt to become a nation. Lenin wrote that, man, and it was Du Bois who did the whole book on it and called it Black Reconstruction, because he explains how the counter-revolution took place. Oh yeah, Lenin had a firm grasp of the national colonial question and stuff. It caused some problems with how he wrote things, you know, but that's all right. You know, that's like our infighting when it come down to it. The brothers, man, out of the industrial era, man, who was Marxist to the bone, they defined the national colonial question, not the Anglo comrades. This is just how history evolved, man. You know, the Anglo comrades, like, they agree with us, though. We call it our Marxism. It's like O-U-R, our, in quotes, Marxism, in quotes. That's what we call it. On the side, see, when we're talking with just ourselves, we call it Marxism on the black hand side. Because it is, it's on the black hand side. It's a different understanding of the Henry Ford stage of the Industrial Revolution, man, and how we actually apply Marxism. The Anglo comrades, they could never understand it from the standpoint of the lowest section of the proletariat, which were slaves in this country. They simply can't. They occupy a position amongst the colonizing people. You just, you know, you're not regulated to the bottom. And the society architecture, that is the way things are set up to administer and get things done, the architecture is set up to carry out your will and protect you at all costs and keep those colonized on the bottom. Me, us, black people.